I always thought the building's noises were just part of its age. Creaking pipes, wind rushing through the ducts, or the footsteps of a late-night neighbor. But that Monday, at exactly 3:11 a.m., I heard two sharp knocks on my front door that made me open my eyes wide. I stood motionless, listening for a repeat. They didn't. The silence seemed to tighten like a rope, but I felt that something in the darkness was waiting for my reaction. The following night, the knocks returned, but now there were three, each perfectly spaced with unsettling precision. I approached the door barefoot, holding my breath, and peered through the peephole, waiting to see who was knocking so late. There was no one there, just the long, empty hallway bathed in a yellowish light. I quickly closed the door, a chill running down my spine. Something wasn't right, but I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination. However, I had barely taken a few steps toward my room when I heard an identical knock, but this time it came from inside the apartment. It wasn't an echo or a vibration. It was a response, a conscious knock, a mimic behind my walls. The sound seemed to travel from within, as if a part of the house had come alive. I froze, motionless, staring into space. For the first time, I felt I wasn't alone in my own home. That feeling stayed with me all night. I slept with the light on, though I could barely close my eyes. When I finally mustered enough courage to check the front door at dawn, I noticed something unsettling. The lock was turned slightly inward. It wasn't forced or broken, just moved, as if someone had tried to enter quietly. I didn't know what was worse, a human intruder, or something that didn't require tools to open. I decided to set up my phone in front of the door to record what was happening while I slept. I placed the device on a small table, pointing it at the entrance with a full view of the hallway. I turned off the light, tried to relax, but couldn't help but stay awake, watching the screen's faint glow illuminate the wood. I had a bad feeling, an unnatural sensation. I knew something was going to happen, and it happened. At 3:11 in the morning, my cell phone vibrated for a moment, detecting movement. I reviewed the recording the next morning, my heart pounding, as if I had a premonition of what I was about to see. A long shadow was approaching along the building's exterior corridor, gliding in a strange way, without footsteps. The camera clearly captured it, stopping right in front of my door. A chill ran through me. It wasn't human. It didn't move like something alive. The shadow remained there for a few seconds, motionless. Then, slowly, it stretched toward the door, as if trying to touch it without actually having a hand. And then, it knocked. 3 soft but firm knocks. My door vibrated with each impact. But the most terrifying thing happened next. From inside my apartment, without me touching anything, the door responded with an identical knock. The wood trembled before the camera. Both sounds coincided. It was a conversation. The video captured an almost inaudible whisper coming from inside my home. A rough, low voice, heavy with intention. "Are you going to open it?" My stomach clenched. The whisper wasn't coming from outside, but from behind me, from the darkness of the apartment. In the recording, I could see the shadow in the hallway receding slightly, as if it were listening for a response from something inside my own house. 2 presences, one outside, one inside. That night, the building's electricity seemed to give up. When I tried to turn on the bedroom light, the switch didn't respond. Darkness enveloped everything with almost violent speed, as if swallowing the faint light that remained. And there, in that total blackness, I heard another knock. Not on the front door, but on my bedroom door. A soft knock that seemed to say, "I found you." I approached slowly, my body trembling and my heart pounding in my ears. The bedroom door barely vibrated with each knock. It was as if someone were pressing their forehead against it, breathing impatiently. I stood still, wondering whether to open it or flee. The air in the room grew heavier, as if an invisible presence were displacing the oxygen. Every second seemed endless. I decided to run for the exit. I flung open the front door, expecting to find the hallway empty, but what I saw was worse than any nightmare. Every apartment door was ajar, perfectly aligned, as if someone had walked floor by floor, opening them all at once. Each one let out a band of darkness so thick, it seemed to absorb the light from the hallway. I moved forward with clumsy steps, unable to process what I saw. The silence was absolute, without the usual echo of the building breathing. I reached the staircase, but before descending, I heard a sound that made me turn around. The sound of dozens of doors opening a little wider, all in unison, like wooden lips preparing a whisper. But no voice came out. That artificial silence was worse than any scream. I decided to go downstairs quickly, but as I descended, a strange pattern began to repeat itself. On each floor I reached, the doors were open in exactly the same position as on the previous floor, as if the building were an infinite mirror. In some frames, I could swear I saw motionless shapes, darker than darkness itself. They didn't move, they just watched. They waited. When I reached the third floor, I heard my name whispered from an open doorway. It was my own voice. An impossible echo. A perfect imitation emanating from an unfamiliar apartment. I backed away in terror, but that murmur returned on the next floor, as if something were descending with me, mimicking my footsteps, mimicking my breathing. I felt that if I listened to it any longer, I would lose my mind. I managed to reach the lobby, almost without balance. But as I stepped through the glass door, the lights flickered violently. For a split second, I saw my reflection in the glass, and behind me, leaning against my shoulder, was the shadow from the hallway. Tall, distorted, with an unnaturally long neck and a featureless face. Its outstretched hand seemed to be caressing the outline of my silhouette, like an owner touching his prize. I fell to the ground, gasping for breath, my vision blurred. When I looked up, the shadow was gone. The glass only reflected my face, distorted by fear. I tried to convince myself it had been a hallucination brought on by panic, but I felt an intense cold on my shoulder where that thing had placed its non-existent hand. A cold that followed me for days, like a brand. I decided to leave the building that night, but I returned with the police the next day, trying to appear rational. They checked everything. The door, the hallway, the building's security cameras. They found nothing unusual. No open doors. No shadows. No signs of intrusion. Only I knew the truth. Something had made sure to hide before they arrived. Something clever. The worst part came when the officers started laughing amongst themselves, assuming I was stressed, maybe even suffering from insomnia. One of them even joked that the building was known for having bored ghosts. I asked them to listen to the recording, but the file was mysteriously corrupted. The shadow didn't appear, the knocks were gone, and my door never answered. It was an empty video, as if someone had deliberately rewritten it. That night, back in the apartment, I tried to act normal. But at 3:11 a.m., the sound returned. A single knock this time, slow, deep. The wood vibrated like a heartbeat. I got up trembling, not going near the entrance, knowing that if I looked through the peephole and saw nothing, it would be worse. The knock repeated, and then, from inside, the perfect echo. The dialogue restarted. I covered my ears, but I could feel the thumps on the floor, echoing along the walls, traveling beneath my skin. I felt the presence outside, trying to control the rhythm, and the one inside mimicking it as if they were a single entity conversing through me. Something lived on the other side of the door. Something lived in here too, and I had no way to escape without opening one of those two wooden mouths. I tried calling a friend, but the signal was dead, as if the entire building were cut off from the rest of the world. The feeling of being trapped became unbearable. I finally approached the front door, determined to face whatever it took. But as I grasped the doorknob, I felt someone on the other side do the same, in perfect sync. My breath caught in my throat. My hand trembled uncontrollably. I pulled my hand away immediately, but the other didn't. The doorknob continued to turn slowly, like a metallic smile forming between the wood. I watched it move millimeter by millimeter, without the door opening. Then I heard an extremely soft whisper, right where the lock should be. "Your turn." And the doorknob clicked, the sound resonating throughout the frame like a warning. I ran to the window, but when I looked outside, all the lights in the neighborhood seemed to be going out one by one, street by street, as if a wave of darkness were advancing toward me. The sky itself seemed to be going dark behind them. The shadows outside were creeping along the sidewalk, lengthening in the direction of my building. It seemed that the doors weren't the only thing interested in me. Something bigger was coming. The silence returned with an unbearable tension. I leaned against the wall, unsure whether to face the door, the window, or the shadow itself. But then I heard the same knock, not outside, but at the bathroom door and the kitchen door, and in every corner of the apartment. It was as if all my inner doors had awakened, repeating that monstrous rhythm. Coordinated, alive, waiting. Since that night, no door in the building sounds the same. Sometimes I hear them tapping against each other, communicating. And always at 3:11 a.m., a different door in my apartment taps from the inside, softly, as if it wants to remind me that it's still there, that it never left, and that sooner or later, I'll be the one who has to open it. Don't forget to subscribe to Susurros del Mundo Oscuro, Dark World Whispers. Here you'll find more stories exploring what moves when the lights go out, and what it hears when you try not to.